So this video is about KNR's election in Greenland, which we recently did in conjunction with the national broadcaster KNR up there using nxtedition. And today I am joined by Martin from KNR. Hello, Martin.
Hi, Adam.
And also Tobias. And Tobias is one of our developers at nxtedition, and he developed the graphics solutions for the election. So, Martin, briefly, can you tell us a little bit about the election process in Greenland that you just went through?
Yeah, definitely. So we cover and send live the results of the election day. And this year was a little different because there was a planned municipality election going on. Election for the parliament was called out for as well. So we were going to run both the municipality and the parliament election at the same time. And the way that it's run in Greenland is that there are these 17 cities and around, I guess, 65, 70 smaller places we call settlement. So we have around 80, 90 polling stations that we need to show results from.
And where do those results come from?
So that's collected publicly by the government. There is a department with a centralized online registration of all the votes. And that data is available to us through API.
So we can do JavaScript calls to pull that data into the system using nxtedition.
Exactly.
And that was the process that we went through with Tobias. So Tobias, how did nxtedition use these APIs and how did we solve these problems?
So what we usually do is we build like one graphic for everything that they want to show. So each single layout would be its own graphic. And that graphic would on its own be responsible for fetching the data that it needs and then display it. But the challenge here was that since, as Martin described, we had multiple elections running at the same time, we would need like a central way where he could select that, okay, now we're showing the parliament election, and then that would trickle down to all sub-graphics, if that makes any sense.
Like children graphics.
Yeah, so we would kind of have a way for the graphics to communicate with each other so that you wouldn't have to send that update to every single graphic in the system.
So, Martin, what were the biggest challenges that you faced in putting this together and showing how this was going to work?
I'd say the biggest challenge was that we had these multiple elections going on at the same time, and administering this at the same time, making it intuitive for the viewers to understand what was happening. And what we normally show from an election is of course, the results from the distribution of votes to the parties in a specific from a specific polling station. And then we had a way of showing a top 10 list of the most elected candidates. And we were uncertain how the data would start running into the system, because this is going on election night, and some places they count only like 20 votes, another place they count several hundreds or 1,000 votes. As you know, Greenland population is not that big. We have around 40,000 electors, I guess you call it. And there was a turnout that we would also show from each polling station. So what we did was we provided, whenever we had a result, we could show the result from these places by the distribution of the parties and then the candidates. And then we were able to also, especially with the smaller places, we would do it as a transparent graphics, so that because we have all of these small places that doesn't really have an influence in the total picture, but it's very nice to be able to show. So we were not, during the night, we were not able to show every small place, but a lot of them. And that was, yeah, it's always challenging. We were actually, the night went on and we were not finished because of some of the counting in the north was delayed until early in the morning.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little demonstration of how the whole system was calibrated and how the events were put together. Just ahead of that, while Martin's sharing his screen, Tobias, just a quick question around how difficult was it to build this using the infrastructure that we already have inside nxtedition? Did we have to do anything specific to allow us to do this election graphics system?
I was actually very happy with the solution we ended up with, and we didn't have to build anything custom aside from, configuration within their system.
Yeah, so we were using the basic toolkit that we have inside nxtedition just to build it up in a custom way.
Nothing custom at all.
Okay, so Martin, would you like to walk us through it? I can see the user interface there, so please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, first of all, I have to tell that the use of the Shotbox was really a game changer for us also, because the hosts were able to pick up the graphics that they wanted to use. But let me demonstrate here in our preview. For instance, I can, before loading it, I can choose the parliament here, and I can ask for the party results from a specific place, like, let us say, Nuuk, and I can just run it here and see if this looks reasonable. I can see that there is a turnout in Nuuk of 61%. This is extremely low for it's normally above 70. I think there is a little, what do you call that, tiredness of politics in Greenland at the moment. I'm not sure. Anyway, that was the case of all places. It was lower than normal. So, but here we have the result, the distribution between parties. And I can also check that the top 10 list down here is like that. And if I want to, as you can see in my view here, I have different things. So now the data that we are using now is, of course, based on that the election is over. So that means that when we started, this process bar was, of course, at 0, but it's at 100% now. So this is how whenever the results came in, this process bar would raise until it was completed. We don't have the measurement of how big the turnout is, but we do a calculation, and based on the number of electors and the turnout, we can actually set in each place. We can go in and see that, for instance, the parliament, we would, let me show you here, we would estimate, now we know the exact number of max votes when it's been counted. But during the night, we would adjust this a bit so that we, when we had the results, we were able to show this progress of how far the counting of the election is running. And we could do that for each place. And even though it's a municipality election and a parliament, due to the fact that we have 5 municipalities, we actually have to look at it as 5 different elections. So here we have Avanade Kommune, which is the northern part of Greenland. Oh, sorry, there. And we would estimate a number here for the max votes. And during the night, that would have an influence on the progress bar that I just showed you before over here.
And that's as the votes are coming in, it's just moving up to show progress.
Yes, just to allow the viewer to understand how far in the progress we are. And based on that, we could also do some small predictions. Like, for instance, we have the parliament, and we would go into the current results, and we would have a look at the party seats. And here we did something that we actually, so the Greenlandic Parliament is has 31 seats. Any politicians just need to count to 16 in order to have the majority. And in this example, this is actually, so we would show this by the end of the night, and we would do it during the evening to make it exciting and more entertaining. Actually, we would occasionally show this so that by now, when 50% of the counts have been counted, the situation is like this. And taking into account that the bigger polling stations are going to change the picture and stuff like that. So one thing we could do here was in our configuration, we could play around. Oh, actually, we can also do it out here. We could play around with the coalitions of different kinds. So if we wanted to, for instance, say that we have another prediction for the coalition, we would do like this, and we would be able to show that if these parties were to make a coalition, they could actually do it and have the majority. So this is a scenario that is unlike, but we can do that.
And this allows you to sort of do predictive coalitions, try to guess who gets over the line. How's that done, Tobias? Are those tags that I see there? Is it done with?
That in this view here, we see basically two different graphics. We have the top one that we call the progress bar, and then below it we have this party seats view. And like I said before, one of the challenges here was that they should show the same election at all times. So at no point in time did we want the progress bar to show a municipality election and then have the party seats show the like another municipality or the parliament election. So we wanted to have a single way to switch those at the same time. So for example, if Martin here changes it to a municipality, they both change. And then the next challenge was that some of the data came from the API. So for example, the progress bar there, we did fetch data, I think once every 10 seconds, we fetched the number of votes. But then we also needed manual data from KNR that they could insert easily somewhere. And both of these data together would be that percentage in the top. And also for this one, if you go back to the parliament with the party seats where we show the coalitions, we used those coalitions that you pick in the bottom. That's just like in a normal event, you can set up a multi-select with strings. So this is just an array of, I think there are 7 parties, and you could pick any number of them. And then that, as soon as you pick one or remove one, that's going to be sent as an update to the template, which would then just basically reformat what it shows as different coalitions. So we have one way of getting data from the API, and then at the same time getting real-time data based on what actions Martin did during the election. Okay, and these graphics, they're all written in HTML, CSS, and with JavaScript, I assume? Yes. Yeah. Okay, it's really cool. It's really cool. I really like that. Okay, so I've got the Shotbox here, gentlemen. Perhaps we could have a talk about how things happened on the night actually live. So first of all, Martin, who had access to this Shotbox? I guess it was on touch screens in the gallery.
Yes, and so the host was the one controlling this on a touch screen in the studio live. And it's so intuitive that it took only a little demonstration on how he what he could do in controlling this, bringing up the different kinds of results that he wanted to show for the for the political experts and the guests in studio to talk over and demonstrate for the viewers.
And Tobias, can you explain to me what happens here? So here are our 6 elections on the touchscreen. I'm actually using a mouse to point at them here so we can see them. But so there's 6 different elections. This is the national election, correct?
Yeah.
And then these are all the different local elections around that. And then underneath here, we have all of the cities that are involved with each election. So I'm selecting the main election here, or I can select any of the other local elections here, correct?
Right.
And then what happens when I push a city?
Then you select that you want to show data for that city only.
Okay. And that then affects what I bring up, for instance, here on my full frame.
Yeah. So if you show the party results, for example, now you will see data for the parliament and Nuuk. So the parliament election in Nuuk.
Okay. And I can switch between graphics here?
Yeah.
Wow. And if I change the town, does it change dynamically?
Yeah.
So if I go to Sismut, is that how I say it, Martin? Sismut.
Sismut.
Sismut. Like Greenlandic is.
You can pick Galtaswak as well, or Kashienguit.
Sure.
Naming it when you do it, of course.
But this is, I mean, it's really intuitive, isn't it? That you can just very easily find what you want to look at really fast here.
And you know, the host in the studio, he learned this, I'd say, a little faster than you, Adam.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Martin. Okay. Also down here we have like overlays, right? So we can also put the same results actually as overlay keys in the system.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is actually something that is that I would run in the outside of the Shotbox. So the host would not pick these. There was simply no time for him to. If he wanted to, he would be able to. But I was running this, and I was showing the smaller polling stations result in this overlay during the night when they came in.
It's great. And then this one, I
What's
guess,
pretty cool about that, if I can just chime in on it, was that so we had here for the parliament election, we had 17 cities, I think, maybe 18 with the off one, so you see 18 boxes there. But for these subs in the bottom, we actually had like 72 different configurations.
Okay.
And that's quite a lot to look at in a Shotbox. So, and since the talent wasn't gonna interact with them, we decided we put that box into the story instead. So then Martin could easily just search for it in the select box and pick it from there instead. So we have the option to pick either Shotbox for what the Shotbox is good at, or the story for what that's good at.
So just to wrap up, how did it actually go, Martin? What was it like on the night? And Tobias, were you on stat? Were you following it? I mean, I think they're 4 hours behind you, aren't they, in Greenland? So were you following along, or did you leave them to it?
Yeah, I was watching the Danish dubbed version of it for 2 hours.
And
Martin, how did it actually go? I mean, was it a big success?
It was a big success, and we were, normally we are very challenged when it delays, and this time, because there were 2 elections going on, and also complications with the counting, it was delayed until we actually broadcasted live for around 9 hours, starting the evening at 8 o'clock here with the first results. But even though that we ended almost 5 o'clock in the morning, we had viewers during the night, and we had only positive reactions to a good flow, a good informative. Even though we were waiting for results, we were able to bring up earlier results and talk it over with the. So we kept the flow during the night, even though it was delayed. So, and then whenever we had a result, we were able to show it instantly. And I would say that it was a great success. One thing that is a little challenging is that we need to, as I told you earlier, manually insert some things, and that is because the data that where we get the results from, they are not calculating the exact seeds, so we have to do that ourselves based on the result, and we are using this universally adopted method called the method of Dunt, which means that a party result, if you have one candidate who gets a lot of votes, this candidate will drag some of the fellow party members into the actual seats in the parliament or the municipality. So we calculated these seats during the night based on the result, and then we entered that manually. And we were not able to do that for all municipalities because the results were so late. But we did this for the biggest one, and we did it for the parliament, and we showed actually the 31 candidates that entered the parliament by the end of the night. And this is something that was very good information for the viewers, and we have only had, I mean, it was a great success. We only had a great response.
And on that, if I can also add something, because I think that was pretty cool that we could do that in Next. So exactly like Martin explained now, some of the data weren't available during election night from the API. And usually, I think you told me, Martin, you keep track of that data in like a spreadsheet or in some manual data way.
Yes.
And we would have to feed that data into the graphic showing those results.
Exactly.
And we actually found a really simple way to do it. So instead of having that complicated spreadsheet and somehow set up like a web server that feeds that into the graphic, we just added it to the cogwheel so that everything that Martin had to configure during the election was in this little cogwheel. So we put up, this is just an array table that you can configure inside the event in Next, just like you configure anything else. And he could insert it here manually. And as soon as he changed anything, this would automatically be sent to the graphic and it would update. And he can do it separately for each of the elections. So it just shows you how dynamic the system is.
Yeah. Yeah. And also the ability to preview the graphics inside the script directly here is very, very, very cool. Yeah, but I mean, it's really cool how dynamic it is when you actually switch something in the system here. And you know, I'm just selecting something, and it's pulling either the manually entered data or the API pulled data, and it's just dynamically responding. That's pretty spectacular stuff. That's great. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. It's been very interesting to talk to you about this and to discuss it. And as Martin says, we think it's been a huge success. So. And now you've got it for next year, Martin, when you have an election next year.
Yeah, we hope they're going to sit there for 4 years, but you never know with politics.